Thank you, Kimberly. And I'm going to call this meeting of the San Diego Community Power Risk and Finance Subcommittee to order. Would you please call roll, Kimberly?
Yes. City of San Diego representative.
LaCava, present.
City of La Mesa representative.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment?
There are no public comments.
And does staff wish to add or withdraw anything from the agenda?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Then we can move on to our first and only item on the agenda, which is the treasurer's report. Dr. Washington.
Thank you, Chair Mora. I'll be presenting to the Finance Risk Management Committee for advancement to the board meeting, recommendation to receive and file the treasurer's report for the period ending October 31st, 2022, marking the fourth year-to-date month into our fiscal reporting cycle. Next slide, Kimberly. With regard to how we performed for this period in compared to the previous month treasurer's report, for the most part, it's pretty status quo in terms of the net operating revenue exceeded our budget by 10%, with our operating expenses exceeding the budgeted amount by approximately 13%. Again, that's primarily driven as a result of the heat event that we experienced back in September, rolling into August, September timeframe. And then we're now rolling into the October month in reporting cycle. Financial results, net operating revenues came in at about $372 million, of which operating expenses accounted for $328 million, most of that being centered in our energy costs, representing 86% of our total net revenues, landing us at a net position for the month at about $44 million year to date. So the table above is the line item comparison. As you can see, the difference between where we actually landed in terms of revenue compared to budget, and the same results in terms of total expenses compared to budget, and then where we landed at a net position. The bar chart below that is a graphic depiction of those numeric results presented in the table above. Next slide, Kimberly. So this slide is a comparison of where we landed actually in terms of our results compared to the projections that informed our budget. So again, here you see it's tracking pretty closely to the budget to actual comparison with regard to revenue exceeding the projection by about 10%, with operating expenses coming in about 13% over the projected total expenses. Again, most of that centered in our energy costs and is reflective of the heat event. Next slide, Kimberly. And again, this is a depiction of our reserves, contributions to reserves, sort of the breakdown of those, also a snapshot of our debt. And then in addition to that, where we landed with regard to our total reserve for the period in relative to our reserve target that was set during our strategic planning session. So the contribution to net reserve resulted in $44 million year to date, with our total liquidity, which includes our access to liquidity, I should say, which represents the amount of cash that we had, and then also the availability that we had on our revolving line of credit. Next slide, Kimberly. And so based on feedback from the committee during our last meeting, we implemented a trend sort of analysis chart that shows year to date where we've landed with regard to our cash reserves and line of credit availability. So I'd just like to speak specifically to the year-to-date change comparing August 31st to September 30th. Again, during the time frame when we started to see the results of the heat event and the impact that it had on our cash and our availability. But I'm happy to report that we were able to navigate that heat event and still maintain a level of cash on hand and line availability. And then rolling forward to year-to-date, 4 months ending October 31st, you can start to see how we're coming out of that trend. In terms of building our cash, we've also actually did make a subsequent pay down to our line of credit. So we've got more availability in that space as well. So overall, this is how we've trended year to date with regard to our reserves and access to our credit line, which enables us to respond fiscally for unexpected type events. I'll pause here, Chair Humora, and pass it back over to you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. One more slide, and then I'll flip it back. Next slide, Kimberly. So again, just to recap, we are recommending to the Finance Risk Management Committee that we move this item forward to the Board of Directors for approval to receive and file. It's currently set up under the consent calendar for the upcoming board meeting. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Chair Moore.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Love the new slide. I love seeing the reserves. I love the target, and we're going to continue to eat towards that target. Well done paying down some of letter credit as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd have to shout out to my team who's in my office, but they're actually off camera. But Tim Maglamut, who is our finance manager, and then Chris Doe, who is our financial analyst. So we've worked together as a team to sort of fine tune this presentation, as well as really just kind of get all of our financial responsibilities in order as well. So definitely shout out to those guys for the support. And then of course, thanks to Karen for her leadership and support as well. So
as some people find this financial stuff boring, I'm not sure who those people are, but when you can visualize things, it just makes it energetic and really tells the story.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more, Chair. Couldn't agree more. Dr. Washington, can you go back? I just had a couple of quick questions on, go back to slide 6. Just want to make sure I understand. Yeah, there we go. So under debt, that is how much of the letter of credit we've actually used?
So
Under debt, yeah.
Yes, at the period in the line of credit, actually, that was the amount, the most significant portion of that was outstanding on our revolving line of credit. And then there's another small slice, which is some other smaller debts that are outstanding as well.
Okay. And then under the reserve section, that's how much of the letter of credit that we have access to, but have not yet used.
Yes, that's correct. The line of credit we have access to that would support us if we needed to respond to an unexpected event.
Okay. And then remind me of the policy under the goal. Is the letter of credit considered to be part of the strategy to meet the goal? Or are we just showing this as kind of our financial status at the moment? Are we trying to get 100% of the reserve in cash, or do we see the letter of credit as part of one of the components of that?
To your initial remark, Councilmember LaCava, so the visibility on the line of credit is just to show that we have that added support to our cash position. But with regard to the reserve goal, that's pointing specifically to our accumulated net position over a period of time to reach that 171.
Okay. Okay, that's why I just wanted to kind of double check that. And As the chair said, great work by everybody, especially navigating the heat wave and those unpredictable moments. But you all navigated that very, very well, and as you showed, bouncing back. So great work. So, Chair, I have no other questions or comments.
Thank you, council member. This is a recommendation for receive and file for the report. Consider the report received and filed. Any other comments by staff on this item?
None for me, Chair Mora. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item is committee member announcements. Any announcements?
No announcements on my side.
None from mine either. Anything from you, Karen?
Nope, nothing on the side.
Thank you all very much. Take care.